Pet snakes aren't really weird anymore. Seems like everybody has one, which means all of us know how to take care of them. But there are 5 things I bet you didn't know and nobody's ever told you about having a pet snake. Having a pet snake used to be kind of weird. When I wanted pet snakes in the 90s, my parents definitely thought I was crazy. Everybody I talked to about it thought I was crazy. And unless you were like a punk rocker or in a motorcycle gang back then, it was seen as a little taboo. Now it seems like everybody has one. It's pretty darn normal. Even regular celebrities have them. But there are 5 things you need to know, and I bet that you've never been told before or probably have the wrong information to. The first thing I want to tell you about is they're boring. Most people think, well, you gotta... Oh, never let your snake do this, by the way. It's, yeah, not good. Not good. The first thing is they're kind of boring. Most people... This snake is not boring. Some of them are. Some snakes are kind of boring, especially ball pythons. Now, I love ball pythons, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to speak ill of probably the most popular pet snake that there is out there, but a lot of people are going to think that they're boring because they don't really do anything. Most snakes sit there. Most snakes are ambush predators. They're not going vast distances. They kind of hide around the same sort of spot, move around a little bit, stay in the same spot for a few days, and then when a mouse comes along, boom, grabs it, and that's kind of it. Yeah, at the very end, we're going to talk about how they never get sick, and I just found something that's going to make this guy go to the vet next week. That's terrifying. Anyway, the fact that they're boring shouldn't deter you though, because I understand that when you want a pet, for the most part, you want to snuggle with it or play with it or something like that. And for those of us who have dogs, we like to play with our dogs. Part of the fun part is watching them be super fun and cute and agile, move around and play fetch and take them to the park and the whole thing. But this guy here is a corn snake, by the way, a butter corn snake. He's actually pretty cool. He's moving and grooving, but most of the time they just kind of sit there. And even if they do move, a lot of the times they're nocturnal. Most snakes that we keep in captivity are nocturnal. Now this is a bad example because this is a corn snake. Corn snakes are diurnal. They have that round pupil. Most of the time, if a snake has a round pupil, it's diurnal. And if it has, oh, the bearded dragon is head bobbing. You want to fight?
We both know I'm training to become a cage fighter. Come down here and see what happens if you try and hit me.
And if it has a slit like a cat eye, then it's nocturnal. This is there's a lot of exceptions to this rule. Anyway, ball pythons, boa constrictors, the common snakes like that, they are all generally not going to be out during the day, and they're going to hide mostly. And then at night, they're going to come out when you're sleeping. So in my opinion, kind of boring. Number 4, they only eat dead stuff or stuff that they're going to make dead. I think you're not supposed to say that word because YouTube doesn't like it on a live. Is that what you're supposed to do? I don't know. There are no vegan, hashtag vegan cat. There are no vegan snakes. There are no vegetarian snakes. There are snakes that don't eat mice. For example, rough green snakes will eat crickets and worms and locusts and things like that. So you can have an insectivorous snake, but you're not going to have a snake that eats vegetables. If you want one of those, get yourself a tortoise or a banded iguana or something. Snakes are carnivores, period. That's all they are. There's nothing out. There's no omnivore snakes. Maybe you can call some insectivores, but either way, you're going to have, in most circumstances, a bunch of bodies in your freezer. Now, some of us won most likely to have bodies in their freezer award during high school, but most of us didn't. And it's going to be kind of weird to have literal bodies of animals in your freezer, because what's best always is to feed these animals a frozen killed rodent. So this animal eats a frozen mouse, an adult mouse.
I'm a little cheese boy.
Eats once a week, and I have a bunch of them in the freezer because I don't want to have to go out and buy a new mouse every single week. It's just not economical. It doesn't make sense. I don't have the time to go do that. I order in bulk. I put them in the freezer. I thaw them out in water once a week. Wham, bam, Bob's your Uncle Fran's your aunt. You get yourself a fed corn snake. Now, some snakes aren't going to eat very often at all. So if you're one of those people who likes feeding your snake, don't get a Burmese python. Burmese pythons, boa constrictors, they're not going to eat as they're adults anyway every week or even every month sometimes. Some of my Burms were going to eat maybe 5 or 6 times a year. And if you get a really big Burm, chances are that might be 2 or 3 times a year or 4 times a year. Now, it depends on the species. Some species are going to eat twice a week. It just really depends. So that's something that most people don't know. They think that you feed your animal every day. You don't. If you want to do that, get a dog or a bird or a kid. Not only that, but most snakes are pretty violent with the way that they eat. Think about it. In the wild, they're going to be mostly stationary. Most of them aren't just, going to hunt. So they're going to be needing to capitalize on opportunity. So when a rodent goes by, whack, it needs to be very fast and it can't be asking questions. It's just got to go. And this looks violent. They don't mean to be violent. That's not like their personality trait. That's what they do to survive. So this might be really off-putting to some people. I don't do feeding videos a lot of the time with snakes because it's really off-putting to a lot of people to watch a snake grab, coil, constrict, and then unalive that animal. And as the mister goes off, I am wearing my own face on my shirt. It's this whole thing. There's a scientist who thinks that I learned everything I know back in the field behind Joe's house there. Anyway, you can watch the video right here if you want to know more about Dr. Fecksneck and the Got Snilk and why my own face is on my shirt. Number 3 is it's very specialized care and they need way more space than you probably think. If you go to a big box pet store, brick and mortar store, to go buy your snake and everything you need, I first of all do not recommend that. All these starter kits they sell they're garbage. For example, a corn snake in these big box pet stores, you're gonna see they need a 20-gallon enclosure. That's what they're gonna tell you. This snake needs a 4-foot enclosure. This is a 4-foot snake. He needs a 4-foot enclosure. He needs 120 gallons. So he needs something a heck of a lot bigger than what you're going to be told. Literally 6 times bigger. That's something that a lot of people don't really understand. Plus, you can't just put them in a box and then leave them on your desk and hope for the best. Although snakes don't need UVB light, which is a special kind of light, they still do need a day and night cycle. So generally you want to put a light on their enclosure, lights burn out. You're going to need a special humidity, which you're not going to need for a dog and a cat. If you have a dog or a cat, it's going to live at the same humidity that you do 99% of the time. Same thing with temperature. You're not going to have to put a heat light on your golden retriever. And you can't take it for a walk in the snow like you would with your golden retriever. These animals have a special temperature gradient and you need to make it that way. You need to give them a cool end of their enclosure and a warm end. And that's why for a snake this big, an enclosure 20 gallons is not going to work out. You just cannot make that work. But keep in mind, this is still really easy. It's just you need to get your mind around that concept. I'm going to get the question in the comments, where do you buy all this stuff? I didn't know that. It's really easy. Go to the link below. So everything at chewy.com right there in the link is the stuff that I personally use, and I pick the stuff at the very best price and in the quantities that you'll actually need. So you don't have to guess. You're not going to get bad advice. I've been doing this for a really long time. This is the stuff that's worked for me for 20 years. Plus, Chewy.com ships it right to your door, so you don't even have to go and leave. And if that's not convenient enough, right now, if you buy anything for $49 or more on Chewy.com, the link below, and you use code Adam $10 at checkout, I'll give you a $10 gift card for Chewy just to say thanks for watching the video and shopping with Chewy. Convenience, easy, best price, and the stuff that you actually need with no bad advice. That's why I rock with Chewy.com, and you should too. The easiest way to do this is watch a care guide or read a care guide, which you have to do anyway for a corn snake. And then as you're watching or you're reading, this is so ridiculous. I feel like he's tickling me. Just go through the link below and start putting stuff into your basket. It's gonna be a lot cheaper than you think. And easy. Keep in mind, having a snake should be fun. It's not, this crazy science thing where you have to stay up all night reading and researching and tweaking things it's really, really easy, especially with something like a corn snake. Number 2, they live forever. Okay, not forever, but I've got some snakes that are over 20 years old. That's pretty common. Now, in the wild, of course, these animals aren't going to live that long, but in captivity, I had a corn snake that was approaching 20 years old. They did eventually pass away of old age, but they can get over 20 years old, sometimes 30 years old, just like humans. Sometimes people will pass away at 65 of natural causes. This is much more rare now than it's ever been, but let's say 75, for example, right? 75, pass away, natural causes, oh, he had a good life. Some people live until they're 105. So it just depends. Everyone's an individual. In 2006, a Colombian rainbow boa died at 42 years old. 42 years old. This is a confirmed age. And there's another ball python, which is the python we're talking about earlier that's kind of boring, some people might say, who is still living and is at least 62 years old confirmed. It might be even older than that. So we're talking about, not tortoise age, or parrot age, but pretty darn old. So don't get this animal for your kid thinking, it's going to die in 2 years. Like my parents did with me when they bought me a hamster, and then I broke down and cried, and it was really, really sad. If you buy a snake for your kid, you're going to be taking care of it when they go to college. And then they can have it back when they graduate and get a house of their own. See what I did there? I said that college graduates could go out and buy a house. It's my attempt at comedy. That was pretty funny. Number 1, they never get sick. Obviously, this is not true. They're an animal that gets sick sometimes. What I mean by they never get sick is they never really tell you until it's too late a lot of the time. Now, don't get me wrong, there are certain animals, and this, I did not plan this, I swear, this is not staged, this is just sad. This animal, as I'm feeling around, there's a lump right here. I don't know if you can see it. It's right where my fingers are. That should not be there. So this snake is going to the vet for sure, but most of the time, snakes don't really show you. There are some ailments. For example, I don't know what this is. I mean, I'll keep you updated. Please hit subscribe so you can follow along if you want. Maybe it's nothing, but maybe it's a cancerous cyst. No idea. I'm gonna have to go get it checked out by a veterinarian. And then there's certain things like respiratory infections. I did a whole video right here about why I didn't go to a vet for that one. You still need medical intervention, by the way, where you can definitely see, I mean, they're wheezing, they're bubbling at the mouth, so you know something's wrong and you can solve that thing. Sometimes with snakes, and I would say over half the time that a snake is sick, they're not gonna show it to you. Reptiles aren't like your dog or cat. If your dog, hurts its ankle, it's going to be limping. If your dog stops eating, it's really noticeable because they eat twice a day or 3 times a day, depending on how you feed your dog. Reptiles, especially snakes, only eat once a week or maybe less. And if they skip a meal, it's, kind of normal. A lot of species, stop. This is supposed to be serious. A lot of snake species just, they don't eat every week, or they'll skip a meal because of the season, or, whatever. I've got a ball python, Pikachu, who's been on the channel, since day 1, and he skips 5 months of meals because he's a ball python and that's just what they do. So it's hard to notice in comparison to a mammalian type pet. Mascota. I'm learning Spanish. Mascota. Yo tengo mucho mascota. Sometimes, and this is really sad, and I had one of these literally earlier in the week, or I guess a couple weeks ago now by the time this video comes out, where I came down and one of my favorite snakes was just gone. Literally ate a meal a few days before, is in the middle of a breeding season, had no issues whatsoever, and just passed away. It's just really sad. So they very rarely get sick to the point you have to take them to a vet or you'll notice them. They silently suffer or just die without any sort of rhyme or reason, or that's the way it seems to us. In the wild, animals who show sickness are easy targets, and most reptiles are prey items where they're from, so they've evolved not to show sickness. It's sad, but that's just the way it is. Let me know in the comment section below what you think is an interesting fact about snakes that most people don't know. As always, please hit like and subscribe. Really appreciate it. I'll keep you updated on the bump here, what's going on. And if you want to join the Patreon, because oh my goodness, the vet bill, it's gonna be like $500 before I'm even done this one. If you want to help out, appreciate it. $1 a month. You get videos early, discounts on silly little merch like this, content only for Patreon, and one-on-ones too if you want to have a conversation about YouTube or reptiles or whatever. Anyway, I do videos twice a week, which means I'll see you in the next one.